Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Again, thank you for being here. My name is Elizabeth Espinosa. Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Espinosa, Espinosa. I'm the Executive Director of Communications for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And again, we want to thank you, the media from all over the world, for being here at the station for this briefing where we have, of course, the NTSB with us. Now, again, we want to remind you that this is an ongoing investigation, which means it is a fluid situation. And we will certainly try to provide you with as much information as possible at this time. The outline of what the press conference will look like is we will start with the NTSB, who is the lead in this investigation. That's a National Transportation Safety Board. Member Jennifer Homendy will speak to you first. She will then take your questions. And after that, Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva will come up here and make his remarks. And he will also make remarks in Espanol for our media in Spanish. And also the sheriff will take questions from you at that point as well. We also want to mention that the LA County Fire Deputy Chief Maroney is also here if you have questions that are fire related in this matter. So we're going to begin now with NTSB board member Jennifer Homendy. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Again, my name is Jennifer Homendy, and I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. With me today is member Tom Chapman and Bill English, who is our investigator in charge. We call the investigator in charge the IIC. The NTSB is an independent federal agency charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant accidents in other modes of transportation. We're here to conduct a safety investigation, and our mission is not to just determine what happened, but why it happened and how it happened to prevent this accident, a similar accident, from ever happening again. Before I go any further, I want to once again extend our deepest sympathies to those who lost loved ones in this tragic event. I can't imagine what the families and friends of those who perished in this accident are going through, but know that our hearts go out to you, and you will be on our minds over the next days and months and years ahead. This morning we began with an organizational meeting where we established parties to the investigation. Parties to the investigation are entities that can provide technical expertise that will help us in gathering factual information to help us conduct the investigation. The parties to the investigation are the Federal Aviation Administration, Sikorsky, Pratt & Whitney Canada, Island Express, and the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. We also established investigative groups. We take our investigators and the parties to the investigations to the investigation, and we establish smaller groups to drill down to get the factual information that we need. The investigative groups we formed are operations and human performance. They will look at the pilot, the organizational structure, the company, how the company is regulated. Air traffic control, which will look at the history of the flight. Airworthiness, which will look at the airframe, instruments, wreckage, seat configuration, and flight controls. Power plants, which will look at the engines. There were 2 Pratt & Whitney Canada PT6 turboshaft engines, and the power plants groups will focus on that. We also have a weather investigator. And speaking of weather, we have a request for the public. We're looking for photos of the weather in the area of the crash. If you have photos that can help us, again, in the area of the crash, if you could send those photos to witness@ntsb.gov. That's witness@ntsb.gov. We're not just focusing on weather here, though. We take a broad look at everything around an investigation, around an accident. We look at man, machine, and the environment, and weather is just a small portion of that. So we would appreciate the public's assistance. If you have that, please send that in, again, to witness@ntsb.gov. We also went on scene today. Our investigators began documenting the scene, collecting evidence, taking pictures, and we had drones in the air to begin mapping the wreckage. There have been a lot of questions about the FBI and why the FBI is here. The NTSB has a memorandum of understanding with the FBI to help us collect evidence. They are essentially a force multiplier for the NTSB. There is no criminal portion of this investigation. So with that, I really want to thank the FBI Evidence Response Team for their assistance with our investigation. I also want to take a moment to thank the Los Angeles County Fire Department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, the Los Angeles Police Department, a variety of search and rescue groups, many of which I saw hard at work today on scene, and the Los Virgenes Water District. Again, this is our first full day. We're continuing to gather information. I do have some factual information on the flight path. With that, I want to read it because I want to make sure it is reported accurately. And so if you'll bear with me as I read it, its initial information shows that the helicopter was flying under visual flight rules, or VFR, from John Wayne Airport to just southeast of Burbank Airport. Around Burbank, the pilot requested to transit controlled airspace under special visual flight rules. Special VFR is an air traffic control authorization that allows an aircraft to proceed through controlled airspace at less than the basic VFR minimums of 1,000-foot ceiling and 3 miles visibility. ATC advised the pilot there was a delay due to traffic. While awaiting approval, the helicopter circled for 12 minutes until the special VFR was approved by air traffic control. The helicopter transited the Burbank and Van Nuys airspace at 1,400 feet and proceeded south, then west. The pilot requested flight following to continue to Camarillo, but Southern California TRACON advised the pilot that they were too low for flight following. Approximately 4 minutes later, the pilot advised they were climbing to avoid a cloud layer. When ATC asked what the pilot planned to do, there was no reply. Radar data indicates the helicopter climbed to 2,300 feet and then began a left descending turn. Last radar contact was around 9:45 a.m. and is consistent with the accident location. I anticipate we'll have more factual information to share tomorrow. I believe we will have a press briefing at some point tomorrow. Please monitor our Twitter feed at NTSB_newsroom, where we'll put out the time of the press conference. I do anticipate we will be here about 5 days on scene to collect perishable evidence. We're going to continue to document the scene. We are not here to determine the cause of the accident. We will not determine that on scene. On scene, we are here to get the perishable evidence. So with that, I will take some questions, and again, monitor our Twitter feed for tomorrow at NTSB_newsroom. We still need to verify that. The question was Was the helicopter going too fast? That's still something we have to analyze as part of our investigation. The question is, what is flight following? And I do think that is important. Flight following is radar assistance for the flight and helps the pilot avoid traffic. It's communication between, in this situation, air traffic control and the pilot. It is when air traffic control said they were too low, it wasn't that they were too low, it was too low to provide flight following assistance. It can be, yep. The question is, did anyone else report similar issues in this weather? That is part of our interview process, and they'll be looking into that. The question is, should the pilot have been flying in the fog at that time? I mean, that's part of our investigation. We look at weather, and we'll have to determine that at some point. Steve, hold on. The question is to describe the wreckage scene and whether I had been to the scene. I did go to the scene for several hours this morning and departed around 12:30. The scene itself, and you asked for a description on the scene, there is a impact area on one of the hills, and a piece of the tail is down the hill on the left side of the hill. The fuselage is over on the other side of that hill, and then the main rotor is about 100 yards beyond that. It looks about, the debris field is about 500 to 600 feet. So.
And what is the debris field tell you about the force of the impact, if anything, at this point?
The question is, what does the debris field tell us about the force of the impact? I mean, we're continuing to look at that. Our investigators are still on scene. Again, it's just the first day, but that will help us. You had a question about the black box. The question is, did we recover a black box? There wasn't a black box. And there isn't requirement to have a black box on this, so there was no CVR, no FDR. There was an iPad where for flight, which is essentially a flight plan, weather briefings, and the pilot uses that in flight. We'll be looking at other avionics on the aircraft to see what information we can gather, and then we're going to be looking for other electronics. Question is, was there any chance for survival? That's part of the investigation. I mean, it was a pretty devastating accident scene. The question is whether it's a normal time to wait 12 minutes for permission to proceed. And there are times where flights are held out. That'll be part of the investigation as we look into this. Go ahead. Go.
Thank you. Given the fact that the coroner's team is still working on the site, how does this affect the initial stages of your on-site investigation?
The question is, given the coroner is still on site, how does this impact our investigation? It doesn't. We are working alongside. They are doing what they need to do for recovery, And we are doing our part of the investigation for collecting evidence and drone mapping. So they're doing their part, we're doing ours, and we're all on scene.
Covering wreckage.
Correct.
Jennifer, are you concerned about people trying to take souvenirs, and how are you guarding this?
Question is, how is the area being guarded? That is something that the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department can answer. That is something they have under control. I'm sorry. Is the weather investigator NTSB? The weather investigator is, we have a meteorologist on staff. That's correct. What's that? Is there another route? We'll look at that as part of our ATC review. The altitude is 1,075. What's that? 1,080. 1,085.
The impact crater is 1,085 feet above sea level.
Okay. The impact crater is 1,085 feet above sea level. Question is whether was all the wreckage found in the same location. It was, the debris field was around, 500, 600 feet. It's what's no.
Yeah, the debris field's about 500 or 600 feet. We found all the four corners of the aircraft was all accounted for in the debris field.
Yeah.
Were you able to tell if the helicopter landed right side up based off your initial look at the scene?
Did the helicopter land right side up is the question. The debris field is pretty extensive. And so, as I said, there was one initial impact. Part of the debris was down the hill. Another part of the debris was over the hill. And then the main rotor was about 100 feet beyond that. Last question. Last one. The question is, how confident are we that we'll find a definitive cause? We do this all the time. The wreckage is just a part of an investigation. There's a lot of information that we request as part of an investigation. That's pilot records, company records, information on weather, ATC communications. So the wreckage itself is only a piece of that. So I'm very confident we'll determine the cause of the accident. Thank you.
So now we're going to bring up LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who will make his remarks in English and then en español para los medios en español. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As a question arose earlier, we have now secured the crash site, and we expanded the perimeter around the crash site. And the Mountains Recreation and Conservancy Authority has issued emergency ordinance going to make it a misdemeanor for anyone to unlawfully access the crash site. Unfortunately, we've had an inordinate amount of interest in accessing the crash site by unauthorized personnel, so we are now patrolling the area on horseback, old-fashioned technology. Our mounted enforcement detail is out there. We also have deputies on ATVs patrolling the area in the perimeter because it's very rugged terrain, very difficult to access, and we want to make sure everyone stays where they should be and outside of the first responders, outside of the people that are doing the investigation, and keep everyone safe because the area is dangerous even in daytime by the steepness of the terrain. We have the road closures still remain in effect, so that's going to be the off-ramps of Las Virgenes on the 101 freeway, both the northbound and the southbound off-ramp. And then in Las Virgenes Road itself, from Ogura Road to Lost Hills Road will remain closed. So only residents that have ID will be allowed to enter that area itself. Everyone else, just please stay away. And those are restrictions, the flight restrictions for 5 nautical miles and a 5,000-foot ceiling. They'll still remain in effect for the duration of this. And that's what we have going right now. And I just want to take a moment to let everyone remember that We're still waiting on the coroner to do their job, to make the identifications. They're busy recovering the remains as we speak. It's a very difficult task. It's going to take a while, so be patient. And as they develop the information, they make the announcements or the notifications to the next of kin, then we can lawfully and responsibly release that information to the media. So remember that this impacted so many families, and there's husbands that lost their wives, wives lost their husbands, parents lost their children, and vice versa. So it's a tough day for everyone, tough day for the entire world. So bear with us while we get through this, and that's all I have for now. Oh, hold on a second. Before we answer this question, let me switch to Spanish. Quiero dejarle entender que la investigación ya se ha comenzado. Ya los investigadores del NTSB ya están aquí, ya están procesando el lugar, están tomando evidencia del área de donde ocurrió el desastre. Los oficiales del médico forense ya están recorriendo o tomando todos los restos humanos y van a empezar el laborioso investigación para determinar la identificación y notificar a todos los familiares para entonces ellos sepan quiénes fueron y recobrar esos restos para que puedan hacer sus arreglos con los asuntos funerarios. Y ese proceso va a durar varios días y tenemos que recordar que aquí esposos perdieron a sus esposos, padres perdieron a sus hijos, hijos perdieron a sus padres. Es algo muy doloroso y quiero extender mis condolencias a toda la comunidad impactada, a todos los familiares. Ya he hablado con ellos personalmente, muy doloroso, y queremos que ellos sepan que no están solos, que estamos aquí nosotros con ellos. Now,
Sheriff, can you explain the decision that your agency made not to fly helicopters yesterday morning?
well, we have a protocol before our most of our helicopters are based out of Long Beach Airport. And when they're socked in with a low visibility because of the fog or the morning, the marine layer, they're just not going to take off because it's unsafe.
And then I think I heard you in Spanish. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said you've already spoken to some of the victims'
Yes.
families. Have you spoken with the Bryant family?
I'm not going to mention who I've spoken to. I'll say that we have been in contact. We had some of the victims' families here. We spoke with them. We offered our services, our chaplains, and we made arrangements to provide them all the support that we can offer them, and we'll leave it at that.
They said that the crater was at 1,000 feet, but the crash was at 1,700 feet.
I think they said the crater was 1,085 feet.
Sheriff, she'll answer that.
He's got it right.
Initially, we had an issue with drones over the site, and we had, unfortunately, the paparazzi. Overnight, we had people trying to access the site on foot, and so we were able to basically shoo everybody away. We established a perimeter, and now we have it on horseback and ATV, and we're going to maintain that presence 24/7 until the entire area is done.
Sheriff, you said when there's a ceiling at a certain level, you don't let your helicopters take off from Long Beach because it's not safe. Can you elaborate what you mean by it's not safe?
Well, it's not safe because our helicopters, the ones that are Long Beach, that are the patrol helicopters, they're smaller. They only seat 4 passengers, and they do not do instrumentation flight. They have to do visual flight only. So if it's less than 2,000 feet visibility, they're just not taking off.
Was the helicopter safe? Was the helicopter safe or not? Was the helicopter safe for them to fly or not?
That's a determination up to the NTSB. That's out of my my league to answer. No arrests have been made, but now we have the tools to make an arrest because this is open lands where it occurred. No, we were able to intercept them en route to the site, and we were able to get everyone away, and we established the perimeter. We're maintaining it while the coroner's office and NTSB does their job. Yes. Okay. Perdón. Sí, cuando hay condiciones nebulosas, mucha neblina, si los pilotos no pueden ver más de 2,000 pies, ellos no van a volar. Eso es su regla. Con nosotros sí, por eso todos los helicópteros se mantuvieron en tierra.
Sheriff, how many bodies have been recovered so far?
That the coroner They're still doing the process. They started recovering human remains last night, and they're continuing for the next several days. So that's ongoing. Well, it's rugged terrain and it's very steep hill. And in fact, they have to bulldoze a road just to get a normal-sized vehicle to the location. So it is very difficult. A lot of people have been able to walk there or hike there. The investigators initially, the fire department, their first response, they were airdropped there. That kind of gives you an idea of the nature of the terrain.
Do you know how positive IDs being made on the remains?
They're in the process of making those identifications. Not our call yet, and hopefully the next few days they will have some identifications. What their flight plan is, or what that's up to the NTSB.
The question on the pilot experience. The pilot had a commercial certificate. He was a certified flight instructor. He had a second-class medical, and on the last one, which was dated July 2019, he had 8,200 hours of flight time. It's an experienced pilot, so you figure that's July. He's got more time now. We would have gotten updated information on his flight time in this July. The question is, are there any issues in his record? And that is part of what we will be looking at in the investigation. We've requested that information. Back to you. The question is, was he a regular pilot? He had been working, my understanding is and we're still trying to confirm his time at the company, but my understanding is he had been working at the company for a number of years.
So let's do three more questions. So, sir, I know yes. Spanish language, sir, has been asking.
How much of that is just 100% safety-based? How much of it is they're just not effectively able to do their job when there is a cloud layer that they can't see the ground?
Well, it's a combination of both. One is very safe for them to fly, and on top of that, we need their eyesight to be able to access what's on the ground, to relay information to the ground troops. So it makes them useless, not being able to see. ¿Usted tiene una pregunta? ¿Cuál? Esa información, eso va a ser ellos que tienen eso.
Is Kobe Bryant confirmed deceased at this time?
We're not making any confirmation identification of any person. That'll be up to the coroner's office when they complete their investigation. Oh, eso es una frecuencia de radio. Sí.
All right, two more, guys, two more.
That'll be up to the family and the organizations they belong to make those announcements as the information is developed. Sir. Sí, pudimos interceptar y rechazar a todos los que intentaron accesar el lugar.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you.